Afternoon guys, Dave Canterbury back with another series in the 21st Century Long Hunter. What I want to talk to you guys about today is the 110 Conibear trap and its versatility. As you guys know, I love things that are very versatile and can be used in many ways to affect the end result. And I believe that the 110 Conibear, you know, like the 12 gauge shotgun, I believe that the 110 Conibear is the most versatile modern trap known to man. And I'm going to show you some different setups with this trap. And I want to discuss with you for a minute trapping as far as the 21st century logic goes of the long hunter of the 21st century. You know, traps were carried by trappers throughout the frontier era. Primitive trapping technology like, you know, snares made from natural cordage and deadfalls and things like that were very rarely used. They carried steel traps. Most of them were leg hold type traps. In 1957, a Canadian trapper invented what's called the Conibear trap, which is a body hold trap that is almost an instantaneous killing device. With that, it modernized trapping, you know, in the 20th century so that animals could no longer chew their leg off to get out of a trap necessarily, or escape from a trap, things of that nature. The animals didn't suffer as much. This trap immobilizes that animal and kills it almost immediately. Now, a 110 Conibear is the smallest Conibear that you can get for the most part, and it's not very conducive necessarily to larger game animals like big beaver, coons, and things like that. But for a self-reliance and meat sustainment situation, you're looking for smaller prey. Don't get me wrong, this thing will disable a large coon or something like that that gets tangled into it. But it is a body hold type trap that's made for killing animals that can fit their body or their head into this trap. I'm going to show you several ways to utilize this trap today, and I think you'll agree how versatile it is. The good thing about the 110 Conibear is it's cheap and it's light. It is a steel trap, so it does have some weight to it, but 3 of these is a lot more guarantee of a meal, in my mind, than 20 or 30 primitive traps and snares. Because the animal's not going to not set this off by accident, the trigger's not going to not work by accident, the animal's not going to break the trap by accident, the deadfall trigger's not going to fall off by itself or in a high wind by accident. If this trap gets tripped, it's going to get tripped by an animal and it's going to catch the animal. And that's what's important. These things have almost probably a 100% success rate if an animal gets into this trap, and that's what you're looking for. The versatility factor comes in how many different ways you can set this trap for different types of animals, to include birds and fish. So we're going to talk about that today. Stay with me. Okay, so let's talk real quick about the 110 Conibear, its components, and how it works, all right, and how it kills game. Basically, you have a square frame here that is the opening of the trap, okay? And you have a trigger mechanism that's made up of 2 metal whiskers, and you have what's called a dog right here that has different latching points in it for sensitivity or the width of the trap. You have a spring on the side that you can squeeze with your hand to set the trap, which is the mechanism which actually mechanically closes the trap as well. And you have a chain connected to it that you can tie off to something. Like I said, you don't have to worry too much about something running off with this trap, because if they get hung in it, it's probably going to kill them anyway. So the good thing about the 110 Conibear is it can be very easily set by hand, whereas other traps are a little more difficult to set with your hands. So let's just set this trap real quick and show you what it's supposed to look like. And what you would do is you would squeeze this trap and open it the opposite direction, so it basically closes in an X fashion, okay? And once it is set up like this, you can then take this dog, you have this whisker that's hanging down, you have this dog that goes over the top into a slot on top of those whiskers right here. And that dog is flipped over onto that bar, basically in between that whisker route, and your trap is then set, and you can see what it looks like when it's set. And the premise of this trap is that an animal will enter this trap in some way, shape, or form, tripping these whiskers, at which point what happens is the trap sets off on them, breaks their neck, crushes their spine, crushes their skull, compresses their torso to the point where it instantaneously kills them for the most part. And that's the premise of this trap. The good thing about this trap is, like I said, it's very versatile in and of the ways you can set it up, and we're going to talk about that right now. Okay, so a very traditional set for this trap would be what's called like a cubby set, and you just find a hole in the side of the bank like this one is, and you can see there's plenty of room right here. And I don't want to give this animal room to get around this trap. He has to be funneled into it just like any other trap. So I've got to figure out where I'm going to put this trap and then funnel him into that. And what you're going to do with that at this point is you're going to set this trap. Now this is a baited type set, okay? So you're going to have some type of bait, whether that bait is fish, guts, something like that that you've used to set this trap up with. And I like to get mine about right in the middle when I'm doing this, so that my whiskers are right in the center, just like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to set this inside your cubby, all right? So basically you shove bait into the back of this hole somewhere where he's going to have to reach through or stick his head in to get it. This is not a perfect example because it's pretty big, but it will work for demonstration purposes. And then what you would do is you would take some kind of a staking device and you would stake this trap down. Just like this will work. You can do it on the spring if you want to. You put it in the dirt a little bit or in the mud, just like that. Then you would tie this trap off somewhere so it couldn't run off on you, like up on a root off to the side right here. And you would just tie, you know, whatever knot you decide to tie in here. At this point, I'm just going to tie a quick overhand in it. Now that trap is set, I'm going to bait the back of this hole back in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to close everything else off to where the animal has to go into it from that direction. So what I would do is I would just find myself some rocks and matter like that. So I can take a rock and shove it up in here so the animal can't get in here from the side, just like this. And that closes him off there. Then I can take a few sticks and things like that that are pretty localized here in the area. I don't have to go searching real far for this stuff. I just kind of, well, that was kind of dead there, but build myself a little bit of a lean-to situation here and camouflage that in so the animal's not coming over that side. And remember, my bait's right back in here underneath that lean-to type situation there. And what I want to do is discourage him from going at this thing from any direction except straight through the trap. So I'm just going to tuck all this in like this, pack it in to where he's got easy access for him is to go straight in through this trap. And again, remember, you know, my bait is going to be back inside here, basically right underneath that lean-to structure that I created. So what will happen is the animal will come in. I used all my sticks up here. Let me grab one real fast. So what I'm hoping is going to happen is that animal's going to come in and he knows that bait's in the back of that trap. So when he comes in to get that bait, he gets snapped in this trap and he's not going anywhere. You've got it staked and you've got it tied. So even if he did get away, until he dies, he's not going anywhere. But he's probably going to get killed instantaneously. Now that would be just a regular, like a dirt hole type set or a cubby set that you could use up against a bank. You could dig a hole and do the same thing in the side of a bank. I just did that one because it was conveniently right there to show you. But you can see that that set took about 2 or 3 minutes. Very easy to do. Okay, so now let's say I want to set this up on a trail as more like a blind set. And I can do that. I can set this up just like a pit type treadle trap in a blind set if I want to, or I can bait it either way, and I can do it on trail or right off trail. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig ourselves a trap bed here. We'll get us a stick that we can dig with for a second. We don't have to dig this real deep, just deep enough for the trap to lay in it basically. Just like that. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to set this trap again. Again, that's the beauty of this trap, is that you can set this thing pretty easy with your hands. Just spread the thing open. Now for a trap like this, you want this thing set on that last dog pretty much, or maybe a little, or maybe the middle one. I always grab the spring before I let go so I don't get my finger snapped in there. Okay, and at this point your trip mechanism, and you can see my whiskers are bent a little bit there. So I'm going to hold this thing shut for a second and bend my whiskers a little bit. get them even back up. I bent them when I set that last trap off. Again, I'm going to grab that spring before I let go. Now at this point, I can set this on the ground, okay? Right in the trail, just like this. I can stake it out by this rope, tie it off, stake it down, and then all I really need to do, if I want to, I can bait it underneath the trap. If not, doesn't matter. I'll just cover it over with leaves, just like this. All right, and that trap is pretty much set. Now if it's a blind set, it's going to be in a trail where the game's going to walk past it or walk through it. If it's a baited set, maybe I want it off the trail a little bit so I get my target animal, not a deer or something, accidentally stumbles into it, but they have to go off the trail smelling that bait to go after the trap. But now I've got the trap laid down, and with that, again, the animal's going to come walking down the trail, and bam, just like a leg hold trap, he's going to get hung in that trap probably by the front quarter, and it's going to kill him. Okay, if it doesn't kill him, you got it staked down. Very simple. Okay, let's talk about a water set. You can set this in the water flat just like we did in that trail. What I've got in my hand here is just a little rubber crawfish. You can buy these things at any bait and tackle store for next to nothing. This one is made by Yum, so it probably smells like fish. It also has a hollow cavity in it where you could smash some fish guts up in there if you wanted to make it a little bit more scent attractive. But visual attractant is just as important as scent when it comes to animals. And raccoons cannot stand the crayfish. They're going to go after it every time. So what I'll generally do is I'll take that crayfish and I'll put him right on the whiskers of this trap. Just like that. Okay? Then I'll set my trap. And I usually set mine about to the second dog on most of this stuff when I'm doing it. Doesn't really matter. You'll get the feel of what you want. But what I want is I want that thing to be able to move natural in the water. I want that crayfish to look like he's just sitting there, hanging out. That's what I want. You can't get him in there so much that your trap's going to move on you. You'll probably have to stake your trap down if you got moving water. Not a big deal. This water's moving a little more than I would want it to for a trapping situation. But right now, I have to work with what I got because it's been raining quite a bit. So I hope you can see this trap setup. So now I would stake this thing out somewhere along the bank, tie it off so it couldn't go anywhere. And now when that raccoon comes in here and tries to start pawing at that crayfish and get after him, and he's after that crayfish, he's going to get hung in that trap. That's what you're after. That's all that counts. All right? That's a very good little tip or trick. You can throw a couple of these in your trapping kit. They don't weigh anything. They last for a long time. Unless it comes off the trap or something, you lose it down the creek, you're going to have it for multiple uses as well. Okay, so let's talk about using this trap for birds. Very simple. You're going to set this thing up exactly the same way that you've been setting it up as far as setting the trap. Once the trap is set, or before you set the trap, you're going to bait either these whiskers with something that attracts the birds, or underneath the trap inside the perimeter that's going to attract those birds. So that when they're hopping in and out and they're pecking on these whiskers, boom, they're going to get hung in the trap. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that. You know, you could use some type of a red berry of some kind. Red is a very attracting color to birds. And you could just feed them onto these whiskers and use that for your bait. You could shove, you know, a partial piece of corn cob on there and use that for your bait if you could find one and you were near an area of agriculture. You could put nuts on the ground inside this thing and use this for a ground trap for squirrels. So there's lots of things that you can do with this trap to effectively catch birds as well. Now, as far as fish go, same thing really. All you need to do is get this in an area of a stream that's choked off, funnel the fish, you know, that are coming downstream through this trap. As soon as they go through this trap and hit the dogs, they're going to get hung in the trap. So it's just a matter of blocking off a V in the creek or in a slow area of the river or whatever the case may be where you know fish are present, and funneling them through this V. Anything that goes through this V or through this whisker, through these dogs, and agitates this is going to get hung in this trap. So it's a very simple trap. It's a very effective trap. It's a very useful trap. It doesn't weigh very much. You can carry 3 of these and it doesn't add much weight to your pack. It's going to take up a little bit of room, but the versatility of this and the proven effectiveness of this trap and the ability for this trap to be set in multiple ways and almost be a guaranteed meal if you can bring an animal to the trap, and that's the key. Bringing an animal to your trap is the key. If you can do that, you can almost guarantee yourself a meal with one of these. That's why I say, you know, 3 of these is equal to about 20 snares. Nothing wrong with carrying 3 of these and setting 20 snares, but these things right here will be your bread and butter. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this little segment in the 21st Century Long Hunter series on the 110 Conibear and the versatility of that trap. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can in the Yurt series as well as the Long Hunter series. I appreciate your views and I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything that you do for me and for my family. I'll be back with you as soon as we can.